Greetings, Dr. Joseph Martin. Scientists, True Science, and Applied Science. This is part 2 of 2. You might want to watch the other one first. Well, anyways, there is a battle, a deadly battle going on in the heart of science for the truth of science. And it's a deadly battle, of course, going on in the minds and the hearts of scientists, because we're the only ones who actually ever put out what these theories are and how science is used in the universe and the world on planet Earth. Because we're the purveyors of the truth or the untruth, and we're the purveyors of how anything that we know or find and learn is going to be used for the better or for the ill of humanity and all of nature and all our relations, as we say, all the plants and beings and animals and fish. Now, this is a deadly battle. This is an important battle. I mentioned in the last video that I've witnessed in my time at university that increasingly the only funding of the universities or the departments of the universities or the research, the scientific research that was going to be done, whether physical research or biological research, chemical research, even social science research, was all done by those in charge of the government, the banks, the corporations, and the military. Those people and organizations and institutions which do almost all of the funding, other than bequeathments, to all the colleges and universities in Canada and worldwide, of course. And of course, without that, the research wouldn't be done in any way at the universities. And notwithstanding the fact that those of you who are students at this time, I really quail at the thought of the amount of tuition you have to pay every year in order just to go to university, and then all the money you have to pay back. My heart is with you. Let's focus on this. What I'd like to suggest is that the science that's even allowed to be done at university is science that has been ethically and morally misused or even thoughtlessly used for the genocide and the death of a lot of things on the planet, a lot of people. Let's just take the aspect of the atom bomb and the neutron bomb and the hydrogen bomb. Back after the Second World War in the last century, there were many great German as well as American physicists and people who were exploring the use of that bomb. Of course, it was used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki to end the war in 1945. That these scientists who had the knowledge to unlock the keys to splitting the atom, fusion and or fission of the hydrogen bomb and the helium, they subsequently were horrified, I would say almost to a person, horrified to a person at the use of these weapons. Werner von Braun, who was in Germany during the Second War, who developed so much military equipment and advanced weaponry, of course, is another example of how scientists are seconded into using their knowledge for purposes that they may or may not know how it will be used and applied in a deadly way to people and the planet itself. Now, I'm not just talking about neutron bombs and more of that near the end of this video. I'm talking about chemical warfare, biological warfare, that, as I mentioned in another video a few days ago, has been around for about 130 years. And the scientists who are developing new kinds of chemistry, Agent Orange and others, or new biological weapons like Ebola, AIDS, and many other viruses, and putting them out to the world to depopulate certain ethnic groups or races or continents. This is being used these days. And when science is taken over not only by business interests, and it's all about money for the military, because war creates a lot of financial boon for those who can build and sell the weaponry to both sides of a conflict, and also those who want to use biological and chemical warfare. But just another example in the medical field now, most doctors, and there are some great books to read of how doctors feel about the big pharmaceutical industry, or big pharma as we call it. They have been seconded by these institutions and companies that are out for profit, and they have to prescribe medications, whether they're medical doctors for high blood pressure, statins, and so on, and all kinds of other things, or for cancer and other illnesses and treatments, Parkinson's, on and on and on, or where the psychiatrist who uses psychopharmaceutical drugs to give it as the only alternative to treat just the symptoms and never the causes of the increasing mental illness, emotional illness worldwide in all peoples and cultures and generations. Loneliness and depression is the biggest World Health Organization issue now. So what is it doing when scientists and professors in colleges and universities worldwide um, give up their individual freedom, their intelligence quotients, and their search for true knowledge? I know when I went into university, I had these great ideals about wanting to know. I was very curious. I was interested in everything, and I was happy that I was alive because I got through a number of heart surgeries and other serious medical health conditions. So happy to be alive, happy to be curious, and learning everything I could and trying to put it in a big picture. That's my nature, as it is for all of us. And realizing that more and more through the 1970s and into the 1980s, of course, so much changed in 1980 worldwide, politically, economically, financially, with labor unions and changes in society. And I saw it at the University of Toronto, where only those researchers that would benefit the corporations who were funding the the programs or the actual departments in the universities, only those programs would get funded and research, and it was all meant to be given back to the people, the corporations, for however it was to be used. Which is why I said in the first video that if you're a scientist in training, if you're a young scientist, a millennial, a Y generation scientist, and you're teaching at university, or you're doing your PhD, as I've done mine, then you need to ask yourself these moral, ethical questions of great integrity. You need to ask yourself, how is the research that I'm doing or want to do going to be used by the people that are funding my research, the corporations, the military, the governments? How will it be used? Can I ask them how it will be used? Do I believe they will be using it for the best interest of everyone and the planet Earth itself? It's a time for valor and courage and strength for us scientists. It's a time to ask the right questions. It's a time to demand ethical and moral implications and outlining all of this before the research is done. In fact, we are not given PhDs here in Toronto or in Canada unless you already have an ethical guideline for your research. Now, as an anthropologist, we had to have ethical guidelines about the communication and treatments of the people that we would meet in different cultures. And I worked in cultures all over, First Nations cultures in North and Central America and in Africa as well. There need to be stringent ethical guidelines of integrity in the universities, in research, just as we need a new way of having integrity and transparency in the corporations themselves. Let's go back up the line. And in the military, hence WikiLeaks and so on. And in governments, hence WikiLeaks and other people who are whistleblowing now to show the nefarious things that have been going on without our knowledge, including the NSA. This is therefore why I say it goes to the heart of science and the heart of scientists. You have a moral obligation to know what research you're doing and how it will be used. This is essential. It no longer is acceptable to just do the research because you give up your intelligence quotient and your freedom in terms of property information, property rights that you have. And, it's a time for moral certitude and rectitude and integrity in all of science. And that includes all the sciences, the social sciences, obviously biological, chemical, and military sciences as well, with weaponry, but in terms of physics as well. Now, it's a question of humanity, actually. There is this battle going on because within the heart and mind of every scientist, and I mean the ones who are actually doing the science and putting out the deadly pharmaceuticals that actually we know create situations of either physical toxicity and death, or it creates some of the antidepressants that create suicidal tendencies, and there's a lot of actually young people killing themselves as well when they're on these medications. So it's a question of every one of us needs to find that the battle is going on in our own heart and mind. We need to come clean with that and make some kind of change. And the change is going to come, I'm sure. When I meet with young scientists who are finishing or just finished their PhDs, I'm aware that they're aware of these issues, as you probably are, and they want to make a difference. You can speak out personally, you can write about it, blog about it, make videos yourself about it, whatever field you're in. And let's like a touchstone here about so many young people who want to go into economics and become corporate people or entrepreneurs. Let me just say this. Economics is not a science. It's human-based. There's nothing natural about economics. It all depends on where your heart and your mind and your ethics are. Whether you go with the capitalist system, the free market system, the communist or socialist system, there's all sorts of other systems. Of course, most of those are, gone by the wayside. The free market system reigns today on the planet in every nation. It's a human-made thing, and obviously there are a lot of moral, ethical, integrity, transparency issues around economics, whether it's macro or microeconomics, the free market system, capitalism itself, and how humans use the system and use money, whether it's making money or money laundering and all the things in between. There are elements of criminality and aggression in every human being and individual and in every human corporation. You might want to look at the video I did. I was talking about Sigmund Freud that I did yesterday, and that would be the second video. And in that video on the shadow, Freud's saying that we all have an aggression and death wish on one side, and we have a life wish and a love wish on the other side. So we have a battle as individuals, corporations, and as scientists between death and aggression and destruction and life and immortality and compassion. That is played out in all the ways we have used science for better or for worse, and we have a choice. We must make a choice. You can't sit on the fence. And there's a growing awareness in me that's very positivistic and hopeful here, that the young people will be the ones to choose for the better, to be aware of the both sides and take the middle path and do the right thing on behalf of all our relations. So we have Doctors Without Borders on behalf of helping the people in the world, and the international head now is a lovely woman here from Montreal in Canada. We have Amnesty International. We have international doctors groups against nuclear warfare and militarism. There are many groups of scientists speaking out. But here's the danger I want to point out just here in Canada, and it may be happening in your nations. All the relevant, healthy science that we have examples here. There was a PhD woman who is involved in aquaculture and the fish farms that we have here on the coast of British Columbia, and the fact that the infestation of different things into these fish farms, and the fish was actually not healthy. It was toxic for the people who would eat these fish, and actually worse to the point, infecting the other salmon and killing off the salmon here. And as you know, the fish of the world are being depopulated, all the fish, at an alarming rate, We just need to know about it, and that's what science is for. It's to help you to wake up and be aware of what actually is going on and stop hiding all the information that is information that would be dangerous to the corporations. We need to know what's going on and act on what's going on. That funding of that woman I was just telling you about was cut by the government, by the federal government and other research funding agencies because they knew it would be harmful to the business of the fish farms. Again, the corporations taking precedence over their money and their greed. So all the relevant research that we can do about the dangers of fracking and how it will pollute the aquifers under the earth, all our drinking water, our clean water, and how it's causing serious problems in the rivers and lakes, not just the fracking, but all the other kind of extraction of oil sands and so on, is actually creating destruction of the water, the earth, and the air with the pollutions and the sulfur dioxide, but it's also creating chemicals in all our food and water that are creating increasing numbers of cancers of different kinds for not just the First Nations who live by these places, but all of us. As I mentioned in previous videos, that 1 in 2 in the world will get cancer now. And I just found out today that the grandson of a friend is actually got serious cancer at a very young babyhood age. And I know statistically that one of the problematic things for us and the heartfelt sorrow and suffering to see a young child going through cancer and dying early without a very fulfilling life. And this is happening to many of our children, isn't it? With juvenile diabetes and many cancers and so on. It's heartbreaking. We need to make a choice around all this. So I'd like to end here with a serious comment by Albert Einstein, who ostensibly is the one great scientist who was a very moral, ethical man of integrity and mysticism that he made in 1947 on November the 1st to a reporter from the magazine The Atlantic. And remember, this is just 2 years after the war. And these are the words of Albert Einstein, and then I'll close with this. Atomic War or Peace is the title of the article, 1947. Einstein says, and these are all quotes, "Since the completion of the first atomic bomb, nothing has been accomplished to make the world more safe from war. While much has been done to increase the destructiveness of war, I am not able to speak from any first-hand knowledge about the development of the atomic bomb, since I do not work in this field. But enough has been said by those who do to indicate that the bomb has been made more effective. Certainly the possibility can be envisaged of building a bomb of far greater size, capable of producing destruction over a larger area. It also is credible that an extensive use could be made of radioactivated gases, which would spread over a wide region, causing heavy loss of life without damage to buildings. I do not believe it is necessary to go on beyond these possibilities to contemplate a vast extension of bacteriological warfare. I am skeptical that this form presents dangers comparable with those of atomic warfare. Nor do I take into account a danger of starting a chain reaction of a scope great enough to destroy part or all of this planet. I dismiss this on the ground that if it could happen from a man-made atomic explosion, it would already have happened from the action of the cosmic rays which are continually reaching the Earth's surface. But it is not necessary to imagine the Earth being destroyed like a nova by a stellar explosion to understand vividly the growing scope of atomic war, and to recognize that unless another war is prevented, it is likely to bring destruction on a scale never before held possible and even now hardly conceived, and that little civilization would survive it. It may be that the public is not fully aware that in another war, atomic bombs will be available in large quantities. It may measure the dangers in the terms of the 3 bombs exploded before the end of the last war, Second World War. The public also may not appreciate that, in relation to the damage inflicted, atomic bombs already have become the most economical form of destruction that can be used on the offensive. In another war, the bombs will be plentiful and they will be comparatively cheap. Unless there is a determination not to use them, that is stronger than can be noted today among American political and military leaders, and on the part of the public itself, atomic warfare will be hard to avoid. Unless Americans come to recognize that they are not stronger in the world because they have the bomb, but weaker because of their vulnerability to atomic attack, they are not likely to conduct their policy at Lake Success or in that was a place, or in relations with Russia, which seems to be heating up again now in 2014, in a spirit that furthers the arrival at an understanding. And in conclusion, I also believe it can come through agreement and through the force of persuasion alone, hence a low cost. But if it is to come in this way, it will not be enough to appeal to reason. One strength of the communist system of the East is that it has some of the character of religion and inspires the emotions of religion. Unless the cause of peace based on law gathers behind it the force and zeal of religion, it hardly can hope to succeed. Those to whom the moral teaching of the human race is entrusted surely have a great duty and a great opportunity. The atomic scientists, I think, have become convinced that they cannot arouse the American people to the truths of the atomic era by logic alone. There must be added that deep power of emotion, which is a basic ingredient of religion. It is to be hoped that not only the churches, but the schools, the colleges, the universities, and the leading organs of opinion will acquit themselves well of their unique responsibility in this regard. And so I guess this is a call out, a shout out to all of you scientists who are teachers and professors and scientists in training and scientists working within corporations and in any of the fields, whether military, warfare, bacteriology, chemistry, organic chemistry, medicine itself, pharmaceutical companies, geology, hydromorphology, hydrogeology, aquatic toxicology of the oceans, and also the lakes and rivers and the waters, whatever form of science that you're in, and especially those of you in economics who are involved in the study of economics. Perhaps you can suggest and see a way to change the free market system, which actually is not a free market, but is a very hierarchical one, to see how you can create integrity, morality, ethics, transparency in the place of work and research. That's my hope and inspiration to you, but I'm going to put it out there as a challenge to you. Whatever field you're in or interested in being in, find the moral center in your heart, speak about it, be clear about what it is, and help change the world for good. And hopefully we can succeed in stopping the obliteration of all things on the planet as is happening now, and the genocide of many different peoples all over the world, and create a better world for all of us to survive as the United Nations or United States of all sisters and brothers of one family, working together for the good of all. Dr. Joseph Martin, a challenge to you and an inspiration on my love and blessings as you chart your own moral course. Om Namah Shivaya. Namaste.